What's up, everyone? Happy Monday evening for you guys. I'm Mike, normally Junkion Crafts and Builds, but for tonight's episode, I am backer number 88. And that's in regards to the topic of tonight's interview. We're going to have a great team here on to talk about their Kickstarter that has been live now for almost a week, I believe. And we're going to have a fun time. I'm telling you that much. But I want to give a little bit of housekeeping here first. First and foremost, I know it's been a while since I put any videos and stuff up other than being on the Figure Action podcast, which is every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Um, but I wanted to thank you guys so much for sticking around with things. And that's part of the fun for tonight as well is I want to kind of give back to a lucky subscriber here. And that is going to be, we're giving away one of the Valaverse Wraith Praetorians. So again, this was first made available at Shop of Curiosity and then also at ISHCON. But you have a chance to win a brand new mitten box Crimson Shadow Wraith Praetorian. The glue is good for everyone who's concerned about that. So I'm going to put the hashtag in here as across the bottom as a banner. And sometime during this interview, we're going to stop and we're going to give that figure away to, again, a lucky subscriber. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you have a chance to go through and get this. And there's no other limitation other than being a subscriber. So if you are part of the international viewership, let me know. I'll help you out. And I'll put the information on how to contact me after the show in the description for this. So I want to say a couple shout outs real quick. One to a good friend of mine, Roll Keeper. Back this on day one at platoon level. Let's F and go. Awesome. And then KJ Smith, welcome to the show. But without further ado, you don't need to see my ugly mug. Let's bring on the father and son team of Patriot Force. So please welcome Ryan and Gavin.
Hey, Mike.
Good evening, guys. How are you doing?
Good. Great intro.
Excellent. Thank you. So, you guys have been making the rounds since your Kickstarter had started, and I want to congratulate you guys for a wonderful start to your campaign. Now, I'll warn you, I haven't watched any of the shows yet with your interviews because I want to come in fresh. So, if I have some questions or we go through some stuff, especially Gavin, if I ask the same question, it's the old man thing. So, just got to humor me on it, okay?
He's used to that.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let me get this banner here going across the bottom. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching right now and you want to get a chance to win this Wraith Praetorian, put Wraith in the comments and we'll get those started here. So let me start collecting comments. There we go. All right, so guys, how I normally run things here for interviews is I kind of like to keep myself on track, and I do that through a slide deck. And I grab some of the really awesome content you guys have on your social media. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up that slide deck right now. So, and Jim, I need a hashtag in front of that to count. Okay, so hashtag Wraith. All right. I forgot to ask, how are you guys doing this evening too?
Good. We usually cram into one screen, but I'm traveling this week, and so Gavin's at home in our kitchen studio.
Yep.
Well, let's go ahead and start things off here again. I have this really nice banner. I love your logo. I really think it's really it pops. It brings out that whole idea of what you guys are putting together for your campaign, and what the real vision is behind this. So, and we're going to talk about it, but first let's talk about you two. So Ryan, Gavin, why don't you introduce yourselves to the viewing audience?
Gavin, go ahead.
You guys want to go first?
Well, that was pretty quick. I'll go for it first here while he jumps back on.
Sorry about that. I think I was trying to make him big and I accidentally hit remove, so I apologize. So Gavin, the stage is yours.
My name is Gavin. We started this when I was 14. We started out doing the customs and then moved on to hopefully manufacturing.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So, are you kind of excited about seeing all this, and like what type of I guess lessons are you trying to gather or experience you're hope to gain during this campaign?
How do we market? Like figuring out how to market to the right people.
Okay, awesome. Well,
Hmm.
I think this is a great trial by fire for you, to say the least. So I'm going to go ahead and bring your dad up here. So Gavin, thank you. Ryan, stage is yours.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, unprompted. He hit the nail on the head. Marketing is the big thing, and I'll kind of back up him. Well, myself growing up, I was into the toys, action figures, and just got my kids into it. And he was always really big into the army building, especially the stormtroopers. And so we started doing the customs, and we kind of merged military and stormtroopers, or military and Star Wars. A lot of that was influenced from a guy. If you don't mind me sharing who it is, Matt Rendar is what he has his Instagram name. Does some cool artwork. He's former Army, and he did these action figures, and we saw some of those among a lot of other people, and was inspired to start doing these customs, which eventually went over just to military, and then we did presidents. We did parody presidents where they were with military bodies, and kind of did some snarky bios on them, and somehow, it really took off. And a lot of it, I'll say, is to the veterans sharing it. We would create these custom figures, the veterans would share to their page, and pretty soon we would have a lot of people interested in them. So nowadays we switched over to doing just the action figures. And I'll say part of it is too, is once you're sharing military guns, anything on Instagram, they really throttle your account down. And I don't really like to share that stuff, but if you look on our story, I put on there that there's like 10 marks against us right now. And so we're getting absolutely no reach. And so in the very beginning, our Kickstarter was jump in, doing really good. And then I started sharing more of those photos, and I kept seeing it drop down, and then looked into it, and that's why. So we want to thank anybody who shares it. We're very appreciative of, all the outside help we can get. That was long-winded.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, that's absolutely fine. I'm glad. We're getting an opportunity to get you guys exposure. It definitely is an important thing for any sort of Kickstarter. Because without it, it's hard to get that uh that outreach. So, but you guys are based in Florida, and
Yep.
I kind of took this mission statement from the website, and I believe it's a very poignant and to the point mission and vision statement for you guys, and that is to honor those who answer the call. And I want to say thank you because I served in the United States Navy for about 11 and a half years.
Very
Uh,
cool.
it was a wonderful experience, to say the least. I never would trade it for anything else in the world because it made me grow up, and it made me, you know, follow the path I'm going today. So it's
If you
very
don't mind me
cool.
asking, what did you do in the Navy, and when were you in?
I served from 96 to 2008. I was the rating is a cryptologic technician, which basically means I was a Maytag repairman and computer systems engineer. I just had access to other places and platforms that your normal IT guy wouldn't get to. So, but now
Well,
I do a lot of systems engineering and project and program management
okay.
stuff. So,
Well, very good. Whatever the
but
reason.
it was fun. The hardest job is leading. Hardest job is leading people. I'll
Yeah.
say that much. So,
Yeah.
but we'll go in here now. You guys were talking about when you first started
Yeah.
your adventure into action figures. You guys were actually customizing figures. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, Gavin, you did most of the painting on them. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, I painted the bodies, the camos and stuff, but I wasn't good at the eyes. My dad helped do the small details. But it was fun. painting. We would go to FedEx to print the paper and then come glue it together and make the card backer. And then, yeah, we would just paint them as the orders came in.
Don't give away our secrets how we do them.
I did. Let's say I did see the Instagram post from a while ago when you guys were getting, like you said, the prints and putting on the backer board, and then the blister cards and adhering them to everything. So it's very cool. Now a lot of the customized figures, were these figures you actually like resin printed or 3D printed, or were these basically you're taking other figures and customizing them to match the characters or the persons on the backer boards here?
Yeah, we actually use those old Elite Force bodies. BBI and then Sunny Days took over. And when COVID was starting, I kind of looked at supply chain issues. And so I thought, all right, let's figure out how we can get these in bulk and do this for a while. Because it took off pretty good in the beginning. And so got our tax certificate, resale certificate pretty early on. And I think I bought like 1,000 of these figures. And we still have some. No, we probably bought actually 2,000 figures. I'm sorry. And we still have some left today. But get those bodies, hired a designer to do the head sculpt. And then so actually in the beginning, we didn't even do that. So they look pretty awful. You think about some of the people who got some of the early on ones. Just paint a beard on whatever head was there, or paint the hair black or blonde, and then put them out there. And then we figured out, all right, let's get a designer. And so we started designing the likeness for these guys.
Okay. I think I mean, I will fully admit that my painting skills are still very sometimes noobish at best. I try all these different little techniques and things that I've seen. I think my latest acquisition are these paint markers to kind of give me a little more dexterity to get some of those details. But Gavin, I fully understand the whole thing with faces. I've got some Mythic Legion customized heads, and they are a rip to get those details on. I try to follow some of the other guys and their channels on how they customize stuff, and I'm not there yet, but your work initially looks really awesome. So good job on that.
Far from good from far. If you look at those eyes on there, yeah, I didn't do a very good job on them. So,
but 6-inch are easier to do
but
than
that's
3/4.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's the other thing too, is you're dealing with a very small palette there to start out with. So, but again, it looks like you guys were, you had this idea of putting together some customs, and you were able to give them to a lot of really cool individuals. And it sounds like the gratitude that you received from them really got you guys motivated into moving beyond customizing. So I think what we're going to start here is.
Yeah. Well, sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say 100%. We got, I don't know if we'd say lucky, or we just tried to choose people who we were compatible with, but every single one of those guys was very humble about it. No one ever, I don't know how to say it's really in the beginning. I'll say almost stupidly on my side, I offered to do this for them. And I said, hey, by the way, we want to, give back to a nonprofit. Do you have one we can give to? I didn't even ask, again, I'm kind of embarrassed about this, but didn't even ask what we could give them. And it wasn't until Gavin knows this, I saw one of the guys put a photo up of back in the hospital for his 300th and something surgery. And I thought, gosh, dang it, what a dick I was. I didn't even offer to give them anything. And so that's why I reached out to everyone and said, hey, by the way, sorry, let's add another 25% to you guys too. So basically we were given 50% of it away, and then Gavin thought he was going to get 25% of it, but he was nice enough to let us put that back into the business. And so he's really volunteered to do quite a bit. And then the other 25% went to the materials. So anyway, we got a good group of guys.
That sounds great. And that's a good thing that you have a strong team with a shared vision and willing to put in and invest into a goal. So,
yeah.
Which is what we have here with your Kickstarter campaign. And I wanted to pull out 3 of the points that struck me right off the bat when I was looking at your campaign, in that you are recognizing servicemen and eventually servicewomen who have continued to give back after serving in our armed forces. And that is through a the named veterans that you have on the campaign here. They are also individuals that are continuing to give back, whether it's through nonprofits, uh, setting up charities, or even businesses that provide support to service members, veterans, and their families, as well as frontline um, services, firefighting, police work. All those individuals that put their own safety, secondary to do their job to support their fellow man. And
Mm-hmm.
what you have on here is that, as you were saying, a purchase of each figure from this portion of the profit is going to go towards those campaigns, those services to help pass along a lot of the, I guess, it's like say, give your contribution to uh, the veterans that you are honoring here. So I really appreciate and respect, that these are the kind of the tenants you both are looking at with your team. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
and by the way, some of that, how it's worded, is what we're doing with the customs. For the real figures now, we found an attorney who used to do this for Hasbro, and he did a lot of the Marvel licensing agreements. And so, just for transparency with the veterans and any of these nonprofits, we give them amount per the gross sale. So anytime they want a report run, they can have it. So it is it. I don't know how to say it. It's like I want to give more. It's one of those where I think in the beginning we were shooting for a lot higher, and our attorney said, "Hold on here, just compared to what Marvel and Hasbro would give them about 1%, 1 to 2%, I think is what he said, unless it was Harrison Ford or Robert Downey Jr." So we tried to stack on quite a bit of that, but still, hopefully, if this takes off, we can do a lot more. So,
And I think that's one of the things we learn when we start doing stuff sometimes out of the kindness of our hearts, and it starts becoming a business. There's the lawyers are there to protect us as much as possible, I guess. So, but you have a
yeah,
very realistic goal here of 96,000 to get this initial line funded completely, and you're running until 5th of July. So,
and
I
part
just
of
want
it,
to
that's probably not a good timing. Part of the thought was, how fun would it be to get funded on July 4th, right, and celebrate with the
Mhm.
fireworks? We actually, part of my script, we were going to actually drop the funding goal and then just plan on doing more out of pocket on our own if we had to in the beginning. And I forgot to go back in there and change that down to the 80,000 we were going to. So it will be
Okay.
a grind all the way through. Like I said, you and I both know about some of those companies that were funded and weren't able to bring their products to market. And so we feel like being collectors ourselves, and actually feel like we owe more to the veterans to make sure we do this right than ourselves. So it'll be a grind. We'll say that. Thankfully, we got Chris helping us out.
Yes. That's a really it's an ambitious, and like I said, it's a lot. It's gonna be a lot of work to get to that. But hopefully, with shows like this and the rest, your other appearances in time for 5 July, we're gonna see you guys get funded. So, but that's kind of what we want to look at here overall, is that you are already designing, and you kind of named some of your some other experienced toy makers in helping design this line. So we're looking at up to 36 points of articulation based on the figure. And you kind of have a really nice breakout here on your Kickstarter page, but we can see that, we're looking at double jointed elbows and knees. Are we looking at pinless or pinned? What's your preference
Pinless.
on that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
Pinless?
Pinless. My own preference, but
Okay. No,
how
that's
about you?
absolutely fine.
You like,
Me,
yeah.
uh, I will say that I am I'm somewhat agnostic, but if you put a gun to my head, I would go pinless just for the appearance. I know that they kind of can loosen up over time, especially with your like manual like posing your figures. But I'm good for. I just want a good figure. That's what I'll leave it at. And it looks like a lot of this articulation you have kind of figured out. You're using ball pegs, especially you're going to try to maximize the articulation of the neck here. It looks like. And then between the thigh swivels, excuse me, and everything from head to toe, pretty much. It looks like it's going to be an articulation point, even with the toe articulation, which is something we haven't seen in any other lines at 112 scale military, so to speak.
Yeah,
We'll say.
and I'm actually kind of like you. As the developer, I think you have to be agnostic and just do what the industry wants. Plus, we added in, and I don't know. We'll see what people think about the toe joint. We did want to make sure we made everything ratcheted, or you say have like a sprocket in there, because I don't want anything loosening up. We always laugh. Gavin has Cobra Commander was his favorite figure when he's a kid, and those legs are so shaky. We bought him a new one, and I didn't want to lose that right because I want to have the memory, and so bought him a new one, and the exact same thing happened, 4 or 5 years later, and so. Factory tolerances is very important to us, and that's why when we were looking at Chris, Monster Force, is one of the companies or lines made in that factory, and I love those figures. Actually, personally, they're my favorite right now. And doing the toe joint, we also talked about, all right, not everybody wants to do a toe joint, so we'll see about adding shoe and boot packs, maybe without that toe joint, down the road.
Okay. One thing I was looking at here that I wanted to ask, and basically looking at the sculpt of most of the figures here, are we going to have a calf or a boot swivel as well, or is all the articulation going to be within the ankles?
No, there's boot. We do have figures with boots. The first unlockable is actually U.S. Marine. Who is it? Dakota, and his has a boot swivel.
Perfect. And I want to highlight this image that you provided me this afternoon, showing the range of your butterfly joint, which is really cool. Definitely like getting that two-handed grip for your weapons, especially getting them right center of the chest. It looks really cool, and you're definitely making them within scale for other current military lines that are out there right now. The image you have here with the Outback, which I think is kind of like the average height for most of the classified male bucks, and then you have a larger one there with Gung Ho. So you're definitely looking to get in that 1/12 scale size there. So that's great, actually.
And we get questioned, and I don't know why we didn't ever take pictures to put out there, but about Action Force. And so I did stand one next to Sinchi, actually right before I left. He's about ballpark. That guy right there, Cody, his figure's about ballpark exactly the height of Sinchi. So,
okay. So are they with that now? Again, with the initial wave, my assumption is most of these figures, the bucks, they're going to be the same height overall. But is one thing that you're going to be looking at when you're funded and continue on to wave 2? Are you going to be looking at different size bucks to represent different members when they were active duty? Is that something to consider?
I think to a point. We have so many different bucks right now, trying to make sure we match up what the Marine uniform looked like compared to Army, compared to Navy. And like sometimes the pockets are slanted, but the name tags are straight. Other times the name tags are slanted also. Going back to your 90s, some of those where they are straight across. And so I'm telling you, that's where most of the money comes from. Every time we're jumping, you look at that. Sometimes it's the belly too, but usually at least the upper torso and the arms, because we want to get the stitching right. The main goal is trying to be as historically accurate as we can, at the same time not break the bank. And so you look at the plate carrier, we have like 2 different plate carriers, but yet 100 different ways to design those. We also have harnesses. Those would come later on. But it's just, we'll see. Before you get into it, or before you get that quote, you don't really have a clue what it would cost. And every single one of those pieces, that tooling is expensive. Not to complain, but that's just how it is.
No, I can only imagine. I mean, we saw 4 Horsemen trying to do a dragon and talking about tooling for that, and I can't even imagine getting the bill for getting a tooling for a single series of pieces. We do have a super chat, so I want to bring that up, and I want to say thank you for $4.99. I've caught your marketing on your line. I really enjoy it, but I've noticed that a lot of your figures don't have edge weapons, knives, axes, etc. I think that when we go through this, we're going to see that a lot of your figures do come with an edge weapon, mostly with a knife. A lot of the other stuff I'll let you say, you know, because again, we're looking at authenticity and such.
That's yeah. That's what it was. If they told us they carried a knife or an axe, then they got it. So we do have. So what people will see in this line is, in kind of to Gavin's point, you know, we looked at Marauders and how they end up ballooning up to 30 some, maybe almost 40 figures. So we wanted to cap it. So there's some veterans that we're already working with, but we're not going to offer them in the Kickstarter. And, you know, one has a tomahawk. And so there are more edge weapons down the road.
Perfect. Again, thank you for the super chat. Just to point out a couple other people that are in the chat here, McLauring, one of our steadfast chat members from Figure Action. It's good to see you. I don't know if I want to bring this guy up here because I know you guys are probably, you're not really happy with him, but this guy wanted to pop in, you know, making time after his dinner. So
yeah.
Hello, Chad. But Gavin, I gotta ask, is that you down here at the bottom holding this this Paintmaster? Is this your work, or is this more from the production side of things?
That is not from me. We sent a few of the figures to what's his name, Dan?
Well, Instagram name is Ward, spelled the right way. I better double check so we give him credit. But Steven is his name. Actually, U.S. Army veteran. So one of the things we're trying to do, not only give back, but when we work with people, if there's a veteran, someone who has a skill, we want to try to give them, you know, first opportunity. And yeah, Ward spelled, the English way. Yeah, check out his work. Phenomenal. And someone actually had made a comment about they thought our faces were a little bit flat. And actually that was on purpose, because if you look at this guy's page, I mean, it almost looks like an oil painting, how much detail he can go into. And I said, no, I'm afraid if you do that and then the factory can't replicate it, we're going to be in trouble.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what's going to be some of the things we'll talk about here with as we go through. So again, I think some of these questions we kind of answered, but again, what was with being customizing and going with your pedigree with that, your decision to go 112? What was the impetus to go upscale for your Kickstarter?
As we discussed earlier, I think, again, as a business owner, as a designer, you have to be agnostic to your own feelings first. And so just watching market trends, 1/12 scale is what you see on the store shelves a lot more. Him and I both, we always had the 1/18 scale. I did have a few 1/12 scale, and then I started getting the classified, and I thought, as an old man, actually, this 1/12 scale is pretty awesome, getting these bigger ones in my hands. And so myself, actually, I prefer, as a figure, just the 1/12 scale because of the detail, everything you get into it. But as Chad will say, and I agree with him 100%, world building, it's so much easier at the 1/18 scale. And so a lot of our stuff we have at home, vehicles, everything, it's all 1/18 scale.
Yes, but I can tell you real close. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, for being 1/12 and world building, I can tell you right now, with some of these vehicles that I have purchased, multiple, space becomes a premium, especially when you see other third-party companies and even other creators that 3D print their own vehicles. It takes a lot of time and a lot of space, so I can understand, you know, the pleasure that you can get from having 1/18th and, you know, being able to populate an entire war space, so to speak. Even though it is, you know, 1/18th, it is the other scale. That's what we'll name it as.
Not the lower scale, yeah. Well, and as people will see, if they don't know at the end of this, how we think we can help impact the industry. So there's a lot of great vehicles going out there. So without where can we fit in and, you know, come up with our own thing?
So one thing that earlier here you were saying, you know, you're dropping some individuals who've been consulting with providing their experience to you guys, not only for the idea of just production, but also for, you know, managing a Kickstarter. You mentioned Chris Gowrich, who was, you know, the production manager for Four Horsemen and also had his own line in Kickstarter with Biblical Adventures. Are there any other individuals that have been helping you guys and guiding your path along here on this campaign so far?
Yeah, you bet. And I'll touch more on Chris because I think he's almost someone behind the scenes that most people don't know about. He does have his own toy line, but he also does Fresh Monkey Fiction. And kind of the tie-in there is some of our consultants are people like ourselves who are not from the toy industry. And so Bill with Fresh Monkey Fiction, Jason with Spiro Toys, they've been both been a really big help. And actually, Bill, per his words, said that Chris helped save him in the beginning. So I was talking to Chris and didn't realize the guy himself has been in the industry 15 years, prior experience with Hasbro, and he's the guy who can help make it go right. You know, his connections with the factory. Actually, the factory that we're going to go to, every line there is underneath him. So
Okay.
you try to learn from those Kickstarters that failed, or I'm sorry, that got funded then failed. And the biggest thing we see is they either try to do too much themselves or hire inexperienced people, go to factories that hadn't done it before. And so we knew, and actually I know in my day-to-day job, hire people who are smarter than you, right? And so Chris he knows it. You know, right now we're just learning still. I'm always going to be learning, but we're the decision makers, but we have to, have reliable people.
Excellent. Well,
Trying to think
that's
who else.
one of the, I think, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask Gavin who else, but we also need to give Chad a shout out. So I'm a civilian, and so we have to go to people who have been in the military. So I'm always checking the chat on gear, different things. And with every guy we have, finding out what brands they carry, because I think the first goal in making sure we're doing this right is to be historically accurate. You can't 100% be with the gear because we're overlapping to make sure we don't have to retool for everybody. But our first four people, that Cry Precision uniform, or inspired by that uniform, is what all those guys wore. So it was easy to start with them and then to move on to, and I loosely say BDU. I know Chad knows better and say, well, BDUs are the older version. But when we show like a button down version, that's just kind of the language we use behind the scenes.
Okay, and that kind of leads right into my third question I have up here was the military likeness and licensing. And
Yeah.
I was going to follow up with saying, getting input from these veterans, learning, hearing from their stories about how they position their gear best, and like I said, the types of weapon systems they used out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely helps out with a lot of the authenticity that you're talking about here. Um, and you touched on something earlier when you talked about the design. I was going to say, is there a particular style? Because looking at the prototypes that you have on your socials, and some of the discussion that goes on is, is it going to be with prototypes as they are now? Were there going to be changes going into production in regards to the level of detail for the faces, proportions, and such? Are those things that obviously we're going to continuously tool as you go along into production, but is there a certain aesthetic or style that you are looking at with Patriot Force?
You mean as far as the overall look, or how true are we going to try to stay to the real reference?
Um, what I'm saying is, like, as you said before, like the gentleman who was doing some of the designs that you were looking at, you were like, getting that level of detail in production level. Uh, is that something that you're going for? Because like I said, the one gentleman, when he was showing you stuff, he said it looked like it was an oil painting because of how well
Yeah.
he he painted and decoed the figure. But in regards to the sculpt, are we looking for a more stylized? My best reference would be like with Biblical Adventures. The faces are designed much smoother, to kind of get that aesthetic of the art that Chris was trying to represent with his toy line. Or are you going more towards a balance, say, with the level of detail like of Classified or Action or like Operation Monster Force, excuse me, in regards to like the level of detail that they have in their sculpts in regards to like faces and such?
And that's kind of where I would put a comparison, because I think we have to find a happy medium. We don't want these beautiful looking face sculpts and then like a grunge or a rougher looking uniform and everything else. So personally myself, and I like Chris's Biblical Adventures. Gavin and I haven't talked about it in that much detail. I mean, there will be inkjet printing done for the faces. But I think, again, I wouldn't want that to stand out and be a glaring separation from the rest of the body or the rest of the, gear and everything else. So I think the answer is going to be wait and see, but we want to stay very true to, what we have on the sculpts. But again, the guy, Steven, who does the face painting, you can see his difference compared to even mine. And I've asked him to, tone it down a little bit. So we want them to look good, but don't want them to look like they're museum pieces.
Okay. And then I guess really is what you guys are saying in regards to this as a learning experience and gathering from other manufacturers and toy lines here is, going into 1/12th, we're going into a very very different world than 1/18th. You're going into a very populated toy line environment right now in regards to your modern line. So, how are you facing some of the challenges in regards to, like I said, with the first one here, the brand awareness? I can speak to a lot of people that I've met in my life that if you ask them about, who are these who some of these famous veterans are that we've talked about or they see on TV, and they can't even recognize that. Now, are you? I know you're balancing out, the awareness, highlighting and honoring these veterans in a toy form, but how are you going to get that across for your prospective buyers? I don't know if I'm making sense with that question or not.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. And I will say, yes, we chose some of these guys. Okay, we didn't choose them because of their popularity, right? Instagram famous doesn't mean a whole lot to me. We chose, I would say that's how we became aware of them. And in the very beginning, we didn't want to get someone obscure and, again, put it out there and it, not sell. I think that was bigger with the customs because you have to have a special person to want to buy a custom and realize, all right, I'm never going to take this out of the package. I'm going to leave it on the wall. So we wanted it to be recognized people. But as Gavin's going to hear me repeat, and he already has many times, is there's no secret sauce why we chose who we chose. But the one thing you can look at, again, is fathers and maybe mothers too, right? Once we do them, because I think it's amazing to be able to have something that they can give their kids. Myself doing this with my kids, has been a blast. And so the biggest thing is, okay, obviously they had to serve. I don't care how good they operated. You see, I wrote on our page because I'm a civilian. I don't know that. That doesn't mean anything to me, but we do want them to have, a decent reputation with the people they served with. And then who's given back today? If they're not giving back, who has a business we can help highlight? Chad was almost, I say, one of the, I see his comment. I'm not Instagram famous. Chad was one of the exceptions to where we didn't have anybody who it seemed that was just really into collecting today, except, and then Gavin and I had already met him. Actually, Chad was one of the early ones who helped really bring awareness to us. And so we thought, all right, someone who's actually in this because he loves it. And so that's why I reached out to Chad and said, hey, I don't know why we haven't asked you yet, but would you mind if we added you to the line? Because he's a huge collector. So I don't want to be too long-winded. Cut me off anytime, or Gavin, you too. I was going to look down brand awareness. Yeah, with any new startup, that's one of the most difficult things is making sure people know who you are. And patriot, that word sometimes is a dirty word. And so I want everybody to know we don't consider ourselves a patriot. So patriot has to do with who we're making this for. To me, yourself, Mike, the true patriots are the people who actually signed up to serve. I've heard enough stories. It's not always a glamorous job, right? You sign up, you get lower pay and long hours. And so that's who this is titled after. And Gavin, actually very creative. We have a line, multiple lines we hope to do someday. It's just one of those when we have time, they're filler, but they're not Patriot Force. We actually have another corporation that Patriot Force would fall under, and same with those other lines too. We both love World War II. World War II is going to be a big one. Gavin may have a different perspective. He can say after me, but I like the realism. So all these joints and stuff I want to do as minimal as we can to function exactly how collectors want, but at the same time, make sure aesthetically they still look pleasing. So.
Wow. Gavin, you want to follow with what your dad's giving you praise on?
I mean, I don't really
Without
care
giving
about
away
how the,
secrets. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, I don't really care about how the joints are. Like when I was little, I would play with my dad's old Star Wars figures. It didn't matter if they couldn't have been their knees, but
Mhm.
yeah, as long as they look real and cool, I guess. But that's my opinion, I guess. I want the people buying our figures, I want them to like our joints.
Well,
Mhm.
I do really like hearing, the fact that you are integral to the overall vision of your company, and looking ahead for ways to, as your father was saying, keep trend analysis in your frontal view on what to look for, and always plan, you know, not only short-term goals but also long-term goals. So that's very that's very high praise to you, Gavin. So I want to clap along with that and say that's good news to hear. Um, and that kind of leads into another comment that was added in here, which goes into cultural respect versus reality. And that is one of the things where I was going to ask you is, you know, with licensing and stuff, the with between the different branches, emblems, and such.
Mhm.
Were there any challenges or anything you had to definitely make sure you were aware of beyond the
Yep.
experience of the veteran himself?
Yeah. So yes, we have licenses for the veterans for the Department of Defense. That's a work in progress right now. Actually, I have a neighbor who has a lot of those contracts, and finding the procurement for that it can be quite a while. And so that's why if you look at we're very careful not to include anything, not to include the Trident logo for the Navy SEALs, or not to include different branches. With I'd say the one exception, and it was my own hand drawn, is the Marine Raider we put on Cody Alford on the front. It's very similar. I changed a few things within. We may not even go with that. We may wait until we can see if it works out with the Department of Defense, because again, the difference between Hasbro, I would say us, and Valaverse is a lot of theirs is their own original IP, creative to come up with what they came with. Obviously, GI Joe's been around for 40 years or more, but we want to make sure we can do it historically accurate. As far as little things. If you take off our helmet on our figures, look at the inside of it. We got all the padding in there. We have seams where they need to go, and that's why we have different arms for people, which is a bit ridiculous. And I don't know if we'll want to stick to all of that, because again, changing out the seams or getting new tooling just for the seams is something that we'll wait and see if it's going to be in the budget. That maybe we're the only ones that notice. But I work in the medical device world, and the precision you have to be with stuff, how accurate you have to be. I've always kind of been a tinkerer, and you have to look at everything 4 different times. And so kind of what we're doing here.
Well, we already kind of discussed the reason going upscale, so to speak. But like I was also mentioning at the beginning of this, you're heading into y- a very, very not cluttered, but a very, very, oh yeah, I'm going to say it, a cluttered line, so to speak, in regards to the 112 scales. I mean, and that kind of goes back to being, the awareness of it is you're going to find those that are functioning with or living with nostalgia in regards to the classified line, and wanting that remembrance of what it was like when we were 12, 10, whatever. I mean, I was an 82 brat for GI Joe from the start, so I had that. Also, you see the unfortunate side of toy collecting uh, in this line with and I use the analogy Coke or Pepsi, between classified, Action Force. Those are the two main ones that people talk about. And then you have the ancillary ones on the side, like I said, Monster Force. They're starting into this as well. And then just any other, line you think of, even if you want to put in Marvel Legends, so to speak. But I mean, those are the two I see, classified and Action Force, dead set right in front of you. How are you gonna? How do you want to? How are you going to face customers that are devotees of them, and how will you entice them into Patriot Force?
Very valid question, and I'll say there's a but in there to where I think you look at Hasbro, they're going to have the core. With any line, you're going to have core people who maybe that's all they collect, right? You can put something else out in front of them. It doesn't matter. They're not going to be interested in it because they love either the lore, or as you said, childhood, or, Bobby Vala has a hell of a line he's putting out right now, and he's got a lot of people who likes that. The difference is our lore is realistic. We're not only trying to offer this to toy collectors. That's a huge part of it because that's, what I am, but we also want to make ours available to people outside of what you think would be the toy share market. And so I have no idea what the breakdown is between G.I. Joe and Action Force. I would imagine G.I. Joe's a several $100 million or at least $100 million industry for classified. And I have no clue. I don't know Bobby, so I haven't asked, and I wouldn't ask him, what he's doing. But I think you also have people like myself who buys what they like. I love Bobby Valaverse Praetorian and a Swarm. I will get every one of those. That's kind of what I'm into. I do have one or a couple of his military ones, but as you said, because there's other offerings, that's not been my focus on his line. And it's kind of just my nature, I think, with anything is I never go all in on any brand. I don't care if it's hats, shoes. I just don't. I'll get what I like, or maybe it's, the flavor of the year. Gavin probably has a different opinion. We had this argument on Stormtroopers, right? Gavin's the newer breed. He likes the Force Awakens or the First Order Stormtroopers. Please nobody, hammer him too hard in the comments here, but I think how we're going to find our footing, as Mark Major said, maybe we're the RC Cola of the toy industry, but you know what? We're putting a figure out there that someone who has a son or daughter serving could buy a figure and be a representation for that. So I'm going to apologize, Mike. My answers are long-winded sometimes. I do a lot of talking for work, and that's kind of just shut me
Trust
off.
me. I have one of my co-hosts for the Figure Action Podcast, T-Man 978's in here. And he would highly agree that I have a gift for gab when I can get onto my soapbox and start going. So please, the more don't feel like you need to be stifled in your thoughts. This is the main thing. And Titan also comments here. Once all this competitive market, but the cream rises to the top. So I think it's like you said, you hold your own destiny in regards to how this campaign is going to go. For getting your future collectors in on with your brand.
Well, yeah, and that's
now,
I have been in multiple different industries, sometimes on the sales side, sometimes on the operation or production, and I have always said I don't have competitors except myself. Some industries I feel like I've done very well at, and again, I don't ever worry about what they're doing. We look at them, and actually, to be honest with you, we look at them partly to make sure we don't copy too much on different things. I think that's different with what we're doing with our realistic line compared to the line that Gavin's kind of been dreaming up, that like a historical fiction, right? It blends the truth with our own story. And so on that, we've talked about, wait a minute, be careful. This is what these people kind of have in here. So it's a lot. But as you said, we got to put out, our first thing is we have to put out quality figures. And I feel like we owe that to the veterans. I feel like we owe that to Chad's in here. If we give Chad a crappy figure, I mean, shame on us. And so I hope people can understand we'd rather be more cautious and take our time to make sure we do it right.
I well said. Paisano 777 says, hey, sorry I missed some of this stuff, but the uniforms are accurate to real life. And I think you guys already said you're taking authenticity to the highest level with the representation of your figures, not only from just the uniforms that they're going to have on, but also the accessories with the plate armor and weapon systems that they have. I think, like you just said, authenticity is like the hallmark of what you're looking for.
100%. And I look at the 1/18 scale. I'm absolutely in love with Marauders World War II. And you look at that, and they're accurate. They're, can I say they're 100%? I don't know, but they look, pretty darn good. And we hope to bring that to ours. And Gavin's actually a big World War II buff and reads a lot. He's very good about reading books, so he does more than me.
Yeah, World War II, Vietnam, and World War I. I love the trenches. which was
Yeah, trust me, history was one of my favorite topics growing up, and it still is. I
Same
just
here.
wish I had more time to start looking at some of the stuff. So things like going to different battlefields. Like I said, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so Gettysburg was a yearly
Yeah.
jaunt for me for Civil War. I had the honor of going and remembering those at the USS Arizona and Hawaii.
Cool.
Going to a lot of other military bases in my career, there's always stories of those that didn't get a chance to get home. So
They're endless.
sad
Yeah.
because you guys high praise with the accuracy.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and I'll tell you, we hope anybody
and
gives us feedback. If something's not accurate, I mean, let us know, because the last thing we want is for a Marine to get a figure and say, no, this isn't right. These pockets weren't this way. So that's what we really try to focus on.
very cool. Unfortunately, we'll get into this, but I think you did miss out on the early bird there. But we'll talk about it once we get into the Kickstarter campaign. And yeah, T-Man, again, another local here, Fort McHenry. Always cool to go and see. So
I'll say real fast, Paisano, there's a way you didn't miss out on it, and yeah, we'll talk about that later on. So we still get in on.
awesome. And again, just remind everyone who's showing up here that missed at the beginning, we are doing a giveaway here. We're going to be rolling it shortly. It's for a new Valaverse exclusive. It's the Wraith Praetorian. Again, hashtag Wraith. Put that in the comments. We've been collecting right now, and we only have 6 people that might get a chance to win this. So if you want your opportunity, because right now it's sold out on the website, and the only way you're going to get them right now until he restocks is to go to one of the conventions. So, which is a good idea. We'll segue into that here soon. So, but right now, let's go ahead and start talking about the Kickstarter itself. Now, you guys have multiple tiers. I have from patches to battalions, and we'll talk about that. And I think you mentioned one gentleman that talked to you about some ways to diversify the campaign. You have builders and named figures, as well as a series of stretch goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to start out with showing anyone that you kind of have things budgeted out for anyone to support you guys in this campaign, whether it's buying a figure, multiple figures, or even with what we have starting out here is the morale patch. What do you want to say about that to start off with?
Yeah, morale patches is something that, I don't know how big they are in the toy industry. I think G.I. Joe did offer some with one of their HasLabs. I think they were the embroidered. Ours are not. It's like the 3D PVC. But myself, I've always kind of been into them, and I have a few. And so we just talked about, all right, what's something we can offer that if someone's not into figures, but they, maybe they're into patches or stickers. Like we have our sticker as an add-on. We didn't offer it up front, but it's something you can add on there. And so, yeah, it's our logo. Kind of coined it or called it the War Eagle. And I'm not an Auburn fan. So it was like after we already had been doing that, I had a friend say, oh, yeah, like Auburn. I said, what? Auburn Tigers? He goes, yeah, they have a War Eagle. And so now I know. And so I looked, and sure enough, they have an eagle that flies beginning of every football game.
Well, that's a cool thing because I know, at least from my experiences with some of the people that are action figure fans, especially the conventions, stickers are a huge thing. And honestly, last year I missed out on DFW, but there is a steadfast group of friends and fans that made their own series of patches to hand amongst themselves. I think again, not tooting Chad's horn, but it was the Fellowship of the Dollies. So I actually I love the idea of having this patch. It's a cool little. You might say it's a little tchotchke type thing, but it's really neat just to have that around. And definitely love stickers. During that across different things there. It's really cool, and I like it because at least it's even something that if you want to have for your kids. I mean, I have 2 young a niece and nephew here, and they love stickers. So if I can give them a sticker and they put it on their water bottle or something when they go out playing in the summer, then that's cool. It's something to you bring some sort of attachment into things. So I applaud even having this and it's a good start.
Well,
And
Chad
I'm
didn't tell
rambling.
me that.
So,
By the way, Chad didn't
okay.
tell me that. And before we offered, I told him, I was like, hey, what do you think about us if we offer a patch? And I think I told him, I like patches. And so he was like, yeah, heck yeah, do it. He seemed pretty pro for it. So.
Well, I know I have my my Dolly's patch, and so does Roll Keeper. And we won't go into college football here, but he said Bama fans will be backing. Um, hopefully, this is something that unifies fans instead of separating them. So
We
We'll
never
call
said
it-
we're Auburn fans.
Yeah, we'll call it a battle eagle then. It rolls with
all
the
right,
tide.
well, let's start off with your. Oh, I'm sorry. So initially, we have these 4 figures are available off the start. So I'm gonna go through and we'll kind of go through them individually here, and whatever you guys want to talk about in regards to what made this figure part of the initial lineup, and we'll kind of go from there. So we'll definitely start out with our first figure here, Navy SEAL Blade. So what can you guys tell me about him?
Yeah, and I'll also preface this because this line seems like it is heavier Navy SEALs. It's not that's what we're favoring. Is kind of fell into place of some of the people we were working with, and then also the uniform. So Gavin will get the next slide, but so this one, and then also this is the AOR1 camo, or if you look at Naval Special Warfare camo, they have 3 different styles. There was this one of our other figures who we call the operator in the AOR2 camo. And then you have that old blueberry, which was, I believe, I don't know if they called it the AOR3 or just the Naval Special Warfare Type 3. But anyway, and it worked out because we are wanting to stick with the same body in the very beginning. And so for I'll say your high speed combat or your cry precision, like your G3 type of uniform, they're kind of stylized after those. And this is what was used quite a bit in Iraq and Afghanistan. More of your desert colors, and then you'll see in a little bit the green ones. Those are actually also used. I'm not going to call them jungle, but they look like more of those colors. And so, yeah, first guy here, Accuracy International inspired rifle, like your 300 Win Mag. It does have a folding bipod, magazine can be removed, and also the suppressor. Helmet on, and we're also wanting all of our pistols to have the magazines removed. So one thing I'll say is, the way plastic is, right, it may not be size historically accurate in case we got to make that magazine smaller so that way the pistol wall and the grip are thick enough. Those are a few things we're battling. And same thing, if you look at most figures look really good with the gear on or really good with the gear off. And so that happy medium, I think we went with them geared up. You take them off, actually, myself, I really like how they still look, but the goal was with them geared up to look how they do. And so to make sure you can get them in all the posing, you can remove the items on the straps. Mm-hmm. Everything is removable, but for the plate carrier, you can take off the items off the straps because the arms will be covering those when you're doing certain poses.
All right. Now, 2 things I want to say, and this will cover all the figures here, but when you are doing your packaging, are you going to, I guess, help those that aren't as knowledgeable about the weapon systems and such? Are you going to actually identify what the weapon is on the packaging, or provide some detail in like a description portion of it? And also, for those that are named and obviously inspired by real life veterans, are you going to have a bio or a combat profile of that individual on the packaging?
Yep. So if it's a veteran, like Chad's figure, we're going to have original artwork on the front, and then it's going to be like a book. So you open it up, and on the inside cover is going to be pictures of Chad, biography about him, probably a couple little fun things. I always say not truth of fiction. That's not right. But I mean, we want to have some humor in there on some of it. If you look at what I've done in the past on the customs, and so then inside cover, and then you're going to look and you're going to be able to see the figure and all the gear through the clear plastic there. And then on the back, you'll have pictures of the figures and then your legal. Now, the other thing, because I'm an inbox collector too, is thought about when they're looking sideways on a bookshelf, what can we do? What's something fun? Maybe have like the first 4 guys make up our put them together and they'll make up like our Patriot Force Eagle or something. So we're still working on that, how we can do it. I like the Monster Force stuff. There's a lot of figures I collect, or I shouldn't say I collect, I've purchased because I love the box. And so, not everybody's the same way. And so we want to make sure you can see the figure too. Now, for the non-realistic people, it's not going to have that book cover part. It's just like your typical, trying to think who's in the example. Well, your Hasbro that has the, the plastic you can see through. So any insurgent, we're not going to do a bio on them. It's just going to be, see the figure.
All right. So your name figures, you're going to have a much more, I'm not going to say elaborate, but a little more detailed type of packaging versus your army builders. And that kind of makes sense in regards to like the army builders and the insurgents, as we'll see. That kind of gives you your own opportunity to create your own adventure world along with that. All right. Well, that's really great. Now, like I said, for me, like you said, you were talking about his main weapon system there, and I am not an expert in all that, so I think that's one thing that I've always struggled with Valaverse and such, especially with his his desire to provide authentic weapons as well and designs, is knowing what it is. So if I'm not, so I can say, oh, this is an AR, and then some of the comments like, well, actually, it's the subsystem of 12 different things. So I do appreciate.
Well, and again, go to trademark. They're all going to have to be inspired by, and so your M4 versus your HK 416. So that's an internal component difference, right? You can make them both look identical, depending upon which one it is, or you have your gas versus your piston, right? I think we use language on our side just so we know how to identify it, but the language I say doesn't always be accurate. The SIG P226, yeah, that's something that we can name, but like the rifle, yes, that's it's more your naval special warfare. They're the ones that I think use that more than anybody else, and so we might call it an AWN sniper rifle, but it's based on the real, the real platform.
Okay, that totally makes sense. I'm learning more every day about stuff like this. So,
hey,
so we can move on to the second one here. And Gavin, I'll let you talk about.
Do that.
All right.
I'll let Gavin talk about Nomad here.
So Cody, his call sign's Nomad. He has the woodland camo for his uniform, but multi-cam on his vest. He's got an M4, I think, or HK. I'm not sure.
We've been called HK. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. He comes with a pistol and night vision goggles. Not all of them have that. So his does. And then a radio for his side pouch. And then I think an extra magazine on the other one.
Yeah, and he also has, I can't remember.
So I think what you showed in one of your other items.
I was going to say maybe Chad can mention, by the way.
Go ahead,
I don't know what it is, but Cody said he has that antenna that kind of wrapped underneath his plate carrier, and he could stretch it up really high. So we tried to get that detail in there. It's not obviously going to be one that you can stretch, but if you look at it, it's the coiled type of antenna on his left pouch there that the magazine fits in.
Okay. And one thing I mentioned that you're also considered as well for collectors is you're providing a stand for each of your figures as well, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And I did see your tolerance test on Instagram as well for those.
Classified, yeah. We want to do actually a stand pack, and because it just drives me nuts, I have, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 of those classified figures, and they're all leaning against each other if they're not on a stand. And so we were originally going to go with a different factory in Columbia, and the quote for the stands came back to almost $1 a stand, and we're like, oh, okay, that's not going to work out. But it was because I think we had that metal plating on there, and so we're just waiting from Chris's factory, what it will be.
For those who can't see it, like, because he's standing on it.
Big enough for a second.
There you go.
That's what it looks like.
Very cool. Now, how many foot pegs do we have on this?
We have one.
No, two now. Sorry, we haven't printed a new. The I has that one now too that we added.
Okay.
All right.
we overprinted before we made
All right,
that
thank you.
change. So
Oh, no problem. Well, thank you for showing us that. So let's roll into the third figure, and that is going to be our first kind of unnamed figure, but still a valuable member of the team, and that is your Army Ranger Sniper. So, Ryan, I'll turn it back to you to talk about this.
yeah, and originally we had a veteran there, but then we actually lost contact. Some of these people we were making figures of, they now have like social media, or I don't know if you call it SEO, different companies handling their social media. And so now our messages go unanswered. And so we thought, all right, well, we can't move forward now without an agreement signed. Because when we did the customs, it was all kind of a handshake agreement. Everything was just, hey, yeah, they agreed to it. And so we want to do it right with this. As Chad knows, we signed an agreement with him. And so we thought, okay, we still want to offer multicam, or I guess you would call it Scorpion, OCP Scorpion, in that first figure. And so that's why we did a new head sculpt and changed around the gear.
Okay. And I do like the whole idea of like initially, you can have your name figures, but you can also fortify that squad. And we'll talk about multi-packs here shortly with some of the other, like, not nameless veterans, but those that are there to support and fill out those fire teams. So, and again, these are fully loaded out with accessories and multiple points of articulation. And I did want to mention that each of these figures we're talking about, you have set for a reasonable price of $34, in my opinion. So
Well,
I'm glad to see
yes.
that that's a nice price range.
Well, we hope. I'll tell you that price changes quite a bit with the deco. Like for Cody, who has 7 colors in that multicam on his plate carrier, plus another 4 or 5 on just his uniform. Some of those will be a tighter squeeze, but we want to make sure we do it right. So, and by the way, I saw someone ask about no Air Force. Sorry, Mike, to interrupt you. Someone had asked about no Air Force or Coast Guard.
No, go ahead.
Space Force. Yes, actually we do. We want to represent all branches. We actually already considered someone for Coast Guard, but part of, again, what we're starting with is people who would be in the same buck. Air Force. My grandfather flew P-47s in World War II. We're definitely going to add some Air Force. And we've already been in contact with a TAC P, a PJ, and then there's a combat controller too. So they're not going to be in the Kickstarter.
But that's why we're going to follow up here with the team man and says, buy and support, and let's get this back so we can get those other branches represented here.
We appreciate it.
Let's so we're going to close out the last figure in the initial wave, and that is your SEAL operator. Now this guy looks really, really cool. So I'll let whichever one of you guys want to talk about this figure go ahead.
He's got the AOR2 camo, which is one of my favorites. He's got a scar. He is the only one with a scar, I'm pretty sure. Since he's an army builder, we have a masked head for him. He's got a knife and then hands.
We do, by the way, have someone else we haven't shown yet that has that scar. So, and someone had pointed out, by the way, that scope mount only has 1 ring. We've actually changed that. Yeah, that was one that, again, going back and forth what we catch when our designer first makes stuff, he didn't have that second ring, but yeah, we have that scope mount with both rings.
And see, that's the fun part is, you guys are you're getting feedback as you go. And this is the perfect opportunity to continue to experiment, make those design changes, during this time. And then, for those that are backed and are following you on your socials, they will stay up to date with what you guys are experiencing, what things are changing. And, it all benefits those that are going to be collecting this line. So
hey,
but that's very cool. And I like the idea of, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike. I tend to do this sometimes. I'm sorry. I was just going to see if Gavin had the figure to hold up next to him.
Oh, yeah.
These are 3D printed, by the way, and so sometimes we sand the joints too loose, and so if they look a bit wonky, that's why.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't fall apart.
Oh wow. Okay.
Maybe pull them back a little bit, but yeah, that's the digital, the AOR2.
Yeah.
Excellent. I was to say, can we see the back of them as well, Gavin, if you can?
Yep. Something just fell off.
Well, so it has the green in there again. That's to mimic the real life uniform. And actually, there's G3 and G4 pants. There might even be another. If we were to get totally funded, we'd even change the butt out so it mimics the G3 pants more. But we're trying to do a neutral between different figures.
Okay. Well, that's very cool. And again, this is a really cool start. Like I said, mixing branches as well as not only representatives of the veterans that you have named here. And again, you are providing much more detail on the real person that this action figure represents. And I didn't want to do them injustice by trying to cram a bunch of stuff on a slide, which is why I will highly recommend anyone who's watching this now or on the replay to check out your socials and learn about these heroes that you're representing here in this toy line. So one thing you did also change was from the kickoff start, you had the initial 4, but then recently you kind of changed that and you added some more stuff. So what was the decision to expand the initial offering of the campaign with army builders?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you twofold on that. So we actually have always kind of had some secret figures we wanted to release throughout the campaign. And partly that's just from watching other campaigns to where they'd get real still or kind of stagnant in the middle, where you see the initial offering and then nothing until they would get unlocked. And so we thought, all right, how can we maybe keep the momentum, which it's kind of slowed. But then Mark Major, which is Action Praetorian, is his YouTube page. He'll go through and do different Kickstarter evaluations, and he did one on ours. And so I saw it. I said, hey, Mark, can I give you a call? I got some questions for you. He had actually recommended having a lower price figure, and we didn't. We have our regular price figure, and then we have the deluxe figures. We do have lower priced items, but not figures. So I just said, hey, Mark, we're 2 days into this. I was like, do you think it'd be taboo if we added in some army builders? Because I said, we have them. We have some we want to do, but they weren't planned for the Kickstarter. He said, heck no, I would add them in. And so that's why Gavin and I were talking. We're like, all right, let's get these mock-ups done real fast here. And our designer went through and helped us out pretty quick. And so we added, again, same uniform. And these are all camouflage styles you can look out there and see, or at least inspired by. They may not be exactly, but we have your black Scorpion, which is like your, I'm trying to think what the Army Ranger has is your OCP Scorpion. So we had the black colors. And then an Alpine camo, kind of your grays and whites. And then an Arid, kind of your desert colors.
And these are multi-cam for those who can't tell.
Or Scorpion, if we say
yeah, it looks a little small here on this, but definitely, you have some really awesome images of these of the deco for these figures and their uniforms on your Kickstarter page. So, but that is a really cool idea. I know some Kickstarters, they just kind of lay it all out, and sometimes that works. Sometimes, like you said, it hits that slow points. It's ebbing. That's why it's a marathon. For each Kickstarter, at least in my opinion, you get that initial bump, and then there's going to be that slow period, and then you're going to have that amazing ending where you can shoot your fireworks and stuff off here, I'm sure. But initially adding these guys in at a lower price point does entice buyers and backers to buy multiples, which we'll talk about here shortly. But you also added in the munitions resupply. Is that kind of like going in line with your conversation with Mark about trying to, again, provide as much product available for your backers? Again, supporting multiple budgets, at this point.
Yeah, and no, that wasn't something we talked to him about. That was just something we
Oh,
had, and we knew we wanted to be able to drop. So the
okay.
basic army builders was really his idea, which is I think great too, because right away people feedback like, oh yeah, and and these are also I don't know if I'd say they're 100% compatible with your GI Joe gear because that varies so much. But we are very well sized right in there, and yeah, but I don't know. I don't think we've ever tried any Action Force gear on these guys here, but our gear
Well,
does
it's
fit
just
on them. Our gear fits on GI Joe, like the Outback.
okay, because that's something just popped in my head now because I know that's a criticism that Valaverse has had and I can attest to it myself is sometimes putting those plate armors and other accessories around the body and using little mushroom pegs are a pain in the rear. So are we utilizing that as well for your when you put on your plates as well, or
Yeah,
is
I
there a
think that's just
different
going to
mechanism?
be. Well, I think it sort of is. I think that's going to be kind of your R&D thing when we get those prototypes. We better make sure we get it right. So what we did is the kind of the female part of the tab is we left them separate tabs instead of one big chunky piece because some of those like I'm trying to think what classified maybe when your 60th anniversary trying to put that gear back on there it's
Hmm.
tough to put in there, and so that's why we were looking at designing it different. Again, doing it 3D compared to what comes in the factory is different. And I think looking at your plastic, your drometer or your durability, yeah, your drometer, that will play into it also. So again, that's I think on us. And I've already talked to Chad. Right, if we get prototype of his figure, I want to get it his way so he can test all that out too and make sure he's happy with it.
Okay. All right. Well then, we'll we'll kind of do this part here, and then we'll stop for a second and make sure that everyone who's in the chat or is watching right now who wants to get in on this Wraith Praetorian giveaway. This is your final call to get your hashtag in the chat so we can capture it and go along and give a lucky subscriber a brand new figure. But as we're saying with between army builders and such, especially I can say for myself, I am guilty of buying multiples of figures. I've been sitting here while we're talking and playing around with this guy, and
Mm-hmm.
the idea of having multiple figures to build out that team is one of the things I do really like. So you're offering multi-figure options for backers here, and I just want to kind of lay out. You start from a fire team of 4 all the way up to 300 figures. Um, that kind of goes back. I guess this is one of the questions I have based on your these numbers. When you're looking at your campaign, are you looking to incorporate e-retailers during the campaign? I'm saying, will we potentially see closer towards the end of the campaign, Big Bad Toy Store possibly or offering pre-orders as well for after the fact, or if they do, are those numbers going to be incorporated into your campaign?
No, we actually will not be. I've talked to Joel. I've emailed Joel. And we talked to Joe Fest last year. They part of it they're working on their Big Bad Workshop, and so for the time being, they're not doing Kickstarters. I do have a couple of smaller ones that might. A couple of toy stores owned by veterans that may get in on it, but no, right now it's individual backers, and so that's why I was telling you. I think pre this, I won't be completely disappointed if the Kickstarter fails because we do have other options. None of them are set in stone, but we have. Yeah, again, I will say you got to walk before you can run, and as you pointed out, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, we talked quite a bit beforehand. If the Kickstarter fails, it's okay. It's like they say, improvise, and we'll find something else. And so we are set on doing this, and we did put that battalion on there later, just because I thought, you know what, you never know. You put it out there. What if someone is into it and wants to get that many figures? We wanted to offer it. So, do I know anybody who wants 300 figures? No, probably not, but there might be someone out there.
Well, I will say you were on a show Friday who's the host is very much a large scale purchasing
Mhm.
collector. So you never know. I mean, I'll give a huge shout out to Abby. He does a lot of stuff for his
Mhm.
community. So hopefully we can all get some of these figures and share the love once we get them in hand. But yeah, I mean, the numbers here again, was it just I mean, we see a sequential increase going along here, but was there a mindset behind the size of the I guess you want to say
Well,
the order of the figures?
Well, the name of them, sure, we were trying to mimic it off of, what we're representing here. And so you have like a 4-man fire team all the way up
Okay.
to, company and a battalion. And by the way, I don't remember what day it was. If there's anybody watching and all of a sudden saw that we were about 20 grand away from our goal, we found someone trying to game the system. Gab and I were watching this real time. I think I got off a plane and all of a sudden I'm like, dang, someone got the battalion. And then we looked at
5 battalions.
Eventually we thought, all right, something's going on here. Well, we saw 1 battalion, and then Gavin's like, hey, they adjusted it down, and then we saw it adjusting down more, and then it went back up. And finally I dug into it and I was like, man, that's someone who's been asking me questions about it on Instagram. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey, you have any questions? Do you need any more info? And I could see, because something wasn't right. Like I told Gavin, I was like, nah, I don't know, because this guy was asking about 1 or 2 figures. Anyway, we had some guy who had never done a Kickstarter before who wanted an insurgent. So he was going to get it unlocked one way or another. So he kept pledging different emails, different accounts. And I was like, we can't do that. It's like, sorry. I was like, if we don't have the money there and people think they're getting that, I said, we're in trouble. So he took them all back off, and he apologized. He said he was just trying to get to his insurgent. So we had a chuckle for a bit.
That just shows I guess people are going to do whatever they can to get the figures they want. And then again, I think he was doing it again out of desire, but also he was there to support you guys. Again, it wasn't the most legit way that you guys want to do it, but
no,
at least you guys were able to talk to him and get it all sorted out. So but again, yeah, I see what you're saying. I just wanted to double check to make sure my math is right from each of the descriptive sizes to equal to the amount of figures there. So
yeah, and one thing I think if you look at some of the early ones, originally because we were trying to stay true to each veteran, that we did it. Okay, I think the first 4 is, hey, this money goes towards, or this reward goes to this person. But really, when it's all said and done, when we're going to do the backer kit, you can pick any figure that's unlocked, right? So if you're already tied into getting one or an early bird and you don't want to change it, we'll let you choose at the end. The other thing is with the early bird, we'll tell you how to game the system here. If you did not get an early bird, as long as you select like the weapons pack or even a single figure first, then you can, if you're going to do an add-on, then you can add it on at the early bird price. So the black weapons pack, if you get that and then you want like the QRF, select the weapons pack first and then add on the QRF, and you'll see it's cheaper. So they are tiered. The more you get, the cheaper it goes per figure.
And these do not include the figures without any gear, the army builders, like without a vest. These don't include them.
Okay, that's a good clarification. Thank you, Gavin.
Yes, thank you. These are just the $34 figures. We just didn't want to be too confusing by all of a sudden adding on army builder tiers. I mean, we could call it the army builder, but unless someone is looking at and doing the math or hear us talk, they may not realize, what figures it's for.
Okay.
I think
all
on
right,
the
so
Kickstarter it says that.
If it does, I might have cropped some of that when I was putting the descriptions together. But like you said, each of these multi-figure orders are for the original or the initial 4, and then any unlocks that are reached through stretch goals. So you're talking the $34 figures are part of these multi-figure orders. But before we continue, I want to follow up with what I said there. This is the last call for entries for the Wraith Praetorian. So I'm going to lower this here. All right. So let's go ahead and show our screen here. So again, last call for anyone who wants to get in on this. Like I said, the only stipulation I have is that you are a subscriber to the channel. If you are international, I will work with you on that, and I will put my contact information for the winner in the description after the stream is done, so you can reach out to me and with your address and as soon as possible. All right, so we are up to 13 entries. So let's just go ahead and find out who our winner is. So good luck, everyone. Oh, Crash, congratulations. We talk a lot over Instagram, so congratulations. I have a brand new mitten box Wraith Praetorian ready to send to you. And since we're talking about, armies and stuff, I'm generous. So we're gonna roll again, guys. But this time it's gonna be for a 2-pack. It's gonna be the Night Force Lieutenant Falcon with the pretty face and Coral. So same rules apply. Let's just go ahead and roll again, guys. And oh, Paisano, all right. Thank you guys, and congratulations to you both. I will get that stuff out to you guys here this week. So cool. Hopefully, in the future I'll be doing some more giveaways, and we're gonna have some Patriot Force figures for you guys to get. So, but let's get back to our discussion here with your Kickstarter, guys.
If you don't mind me backing up, I did see Father Son Galaxy
All right.
asked a question about the hands. We have actually
Sure.
so many different
Let me.
variants of it. Yep, sorry.
So go ahead. I'm trying to find the comment here for you. Are we talking about the hands?
Yep. We've actually added more hands, and I know,
Okay.
I mean, they're not in some of the mock-ups, but we actually added a fist also. So we're probably be doing hand packs down the road, or maybe even later in this Kickstarter, because I don't know, maybe Gavin does. We probably have 15 different hand styles, because just looking at, for example, these guys doing your CQB as they're rolling through houses, how they have like a C-clamp grip, just different grips on the rifles. We wanted to make sure we got those right. Some hand signs, but you have your trigger finger, and then you also have like your trigger safeties, we say. I mean, your finger, straight down the lower receiver. Heck, what else we have? Yeah, we have the knife hand. I think the one in there is like your rifle cupping underneath the handguard. But then we also have one that for the pistol. I didn't have it actually. I put the wrong one on that Chad to show for my photo. We actually have one that fits, so you have two hands together doing a pistol grip. So there's quite a few different hands, barry and glove.
All right. Now, one thing I will ask, because this is something I noticed when I had my Monster Force figures, is their hands, the pliability of the PVC for the hand is a little softer than what we see with Classified or Action Force, and I really think that kind of helps with getting the weapon system or blade in their hand. To me, it seems a lot easier using that line than what I deal with the other two that I mentioned. So, is that something you're experimenting with, or anything along those lines?
Well, right now, no, but yes, once we get everything, I think it is the R&D. To me, again, looking at someone who likes to pose these, or I like to customize them, we want to make sure that we can get those in there, because that drives me nuts when you have a hard time getting a gun in a hand. Either you feel like you're going to break a finger, or it just never holds it right, and it'll pop out. So we'll have to talk then, make sure I get some for you. We'll have to make sure I get some for you.
Or for me with something. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I mean, never.
No, I'm sorry. We'll have to talk after we get some of those prototypes. Make sure I send some your way, and make sure you think they're good enough. Because we want that feedback from different people.
Yeah, thank you. Because one of the most annoying things I've dealt with at times is, like I said, if it is that difficult to get a get a grip in, especially when you're balancing the design of the weapon system. If there's, how the sculpt of the forearm is, you might have to actually pull the hand off and get it back on. And if we are experiencing tight tolerances that, you might need to use heat or anything else, then, every time you do that, you're risking that joint there popping apart. So again, if that's a recommendation to take in, that's one of my big things I always look for.
Well, that's
But
actually
we're going to
why
continue.
sorry, Mike, and I keep talking over you, but that's
No,
actually
no,
one of the reasons
please.
why we change the wrist how we do is because you look at typically when you see a wrist joint, you either have your flexion extension or like your side to side, like your radius versus ulnar. And so instead we end up doing the ball joint so you can move it all around, because I've tried to pose them, in a rifle stance, and you can't always get, a figure to fit, or you can't get that wrist to bend without breaking.
Oh, cool. That's good to know. But we also, like every good Kickstarter, we have some stretch goals. So we'll kind of go through these as far as we, or well, not as far as well as we can here. But for 130, we have 3 new figures. They look like their own name figures. Once we reach 130,000, and we start off here with Dak Savage. So Gavin, what can you tell me about Dak?
So his name is Dakota Meyer. He is one of our unlockables. He has a little grenade launcher attached to his M4, and you can actually load up the shells in it. It slides back and forth. And then he has several magazines you can put in his vest. The little shells or whatever up front are not removable, but like up top where the flag would go, they are. And actually, I have a 3D printed figure here. You can kind of see. So those ones are removable, and then this ones are not.
That's why they're prototypes, man. That's all good. So with that plate armor, does that exhibit or match up to a specific how do I want to say it? Like, say this gentleman's part of a team. Is he a support? Is he up front there? I mean, how does carrying all that extra ammunition stuff? What would he be specialized at?
Well, he's actually a scout sniper, but if you look online, just Google Dakota Meyer, USMC or U.S. Marine, and you'll see a photo of him. Actually, it was on our Instagram page. I think I deleted it today, where he is fully geared up like that. He just has magazines all across the place and all those 40 millimeter shells down across the bottom. And then he has 2 sitting on top like that. So as Gavin said, this is removable because we want everybody to have American flag patch too. So if you don't see American flag patch, plan on everybody getting one. Some of them are red, white, blue. Some are, like more your battle ones where they're black and gray, or I'm sorry, black and white or green and white. But yeah, that's what he had. I mean, he had so many magazines too in his gear.
I was meaning the shells can pop out up top, but not down below.
Yes,
but
he's
okay.
Right,
so, and we're talking about, and when you're saying putting on the patches or insignias up front, are we looking at the same type of modularity with the mushroom pegs like we've seen with Doc from Classified, or any of the Monster Force figures and with their plate armor? Is it going to be that same type of connection?
Similar. Right now we didn't put that mushroom head on there just because we want the factory, we want their opinion, and being where Monster Force is, most of theirs I've actually had a lot of good luck putting them back on. I think there's been a couple pieces not. So it's, I guess, do you go deeper and just make it more snug without the mushroom head? That's kind of an option. Or do you want to make it more of a shallow plug with the mushroom head? Theirs is kind of shallow, and it seems like it works well for the most part. But I've had some where you can't. Even Marauders, I love Marauders, but sometime on the rifles, I have to glue the pieces on. So I think that's just on us, and then the people we pass them out to in R&D phase to make sure we get it right.
Okay. Excellent. So let's move on to the next figure, which I think we've seen Red prominently talked about here on your socials. Again, this one is very special in regards to like the individual that you're representing here. So Ryan, you want to talk about Red a little bit?
Yeah, Jason Redmond. Again, sorry guys, one of the many Navy SEAL. Not sorry, really, but I mean, when people say we must have a Navy SEAL fetish, we don't. It's just again through the 3 years we were doing customs, we did work with more because some of them knew each other and referred them too. So, Jason, we actually met. We live near the Navy SEAL Museum here in Florida, and so we met him. And great guy. Everybody we look at, we want them obviously to be high quality individuals and. He's definitely one of them. He comes with two heads. The one on the body there is representative of how he looked when he was younger and served. But he actually left service because he got shot. Geez, I don't know how many times. Several times, and then at least one, maybe multiple, I think, in his face. I believe 2 or 3 times in the face. And so he asked us if we could also get what he looks like now, so that way it shows, his scars. And so that's what that other head is that you see off to the side. Again, Google Jason Redmond Navy SEAL, and you'll see him in this gear. His rifle he had kind of rattle can sprayed like that, and so that's what we want to represent. And then he had a bunch of chem lights on top, and so you can see the plate carrier's got chem lights.
Yeah, and I did look him up, and when he was in that engagement where he did get struck in the shoulder and then again in the face.
Bicep, yeah.
I mean, thank God he came home. Not everyone gets that chance, and not everyone comes back, unchanged. But it's very awesome that we get to see this. We hope to see this figure come to light whenever we hit that stretch goal. But the final one in this range is Toby. So who wants to talk about him?
So that is Ambry's. I don't know the name of his gun.
M14.
M14. All right. He also has a pistol and then a radio for the side pouch, and then he has a little medic pouch on the side. And yeah, he has a leg holster attached to his belt. Mm-hmm.
This is one of them where you can't stay 100% accurate. For example, he had, I don't know if it was a little gauze wrap, something up on his right side of his plate carrier strap. And we haven't really come up with a good solution how to keep that on there. You could clip it on, but we didn't want it to be too thin to clip. And so we just gave him the IFAC, that medical pouch on the right side, talking to him about, he also carried, but may not have seen it in pictures. He actually served with, B's Battleground, Bobby B. He actually, Bobby knows him. And Gavin, you read all of his book, didn't you? He wrote a book.
Yep. It's been a few years, so I don't remember all of it.
Okay.
But yeah.
So he wrote this book, and he donated, I don't know if he donates all the profits, but most of the profits to one of the guys he served with that died in combat with him. And so there's photos actually of Sean online where he got shot. I believe he got shot too. Gavin can tell me, or maybe it's shrapnel, but he's bloodied up a little bit. And
I can't remember.
So Tyler, I don't remember the last name, but where he donates his book proceeds to. So that's who we're donating it to also. Tyler Huntington, maybe?
Okay. And again, a lot of these, again, we have the call signs showing here, but on the Kickstarter, you have the actual veteran's name. And like you said, if you're curious about learning more about these individuals, a quick Google search can tell you all about their experiences and what they've done post service that helps come into the selection here for this campaign.
And Mike, if
Oscar,
if I point out, so these 3 people who are the first unlockable, their pants. So how they're different than the first guys is the first guys have, to mimic the real pants, they got pockets on front thighs and on the side of the thighs. If you look at the Army, a lot of what these guys used to wear or Army wears now is there's no pockets on the front. So these thighs are different. And then, of course, we have the boots. But then if you take off the plate carrier, they're all three different. Dakota has angled pockets with angled name tags. Who was it next? Redmond has, they're kind of like more parallel. They more look like your right side, like my pockets, and the name tag going the same direction. And then Sean's has the angled pockets with the name tags going straight across. And so every single chest piece is different. Again, it makes up a lot of tooling, unfortunately, but we want to get it right.
We can't see your pockets on your shirt.
Oh, you can't? Yeah, sorry.
We trust you that you have some pockets there.
Camouflage.
Excuse me. I do have a follow-up question from Oscar about your plate carriers and what we're talking about the modularity. Are there any other portions that you're going to be able to swap around other than the flag patch area?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gavin. Do you have one there?
Yeah. So these pieces on the side, they are modular and come off. This front piece does not come off.
Yeah, they're probably glued on there just because being 3D printed, I stuck them on. So
yeah, they are.
Painted them all at once. But yeah, you can remove those so you have more room underneath the arms. Because if you look at some of the real pictures of these guys, they had a lot of stuff. Some of them had a lot of stuff underneath their arms.
Yeah, and that's where kind of like you see that type of stuff with our figures. Sometimes you can't really. I'm moving my arm, you can't see it, but like, they walk around like Popeye with their arms all bowed out. And I think that's cool that you can kind of give that opportunity to let that flex come into your figures. And it's cool, again, just that customizability that you guys are putting in your thought process for these figures. So Oscar, thank you for the comment. So now we move into our next goal of 180,000. Excuse me. And we go into Tanto here, or Tanto, excuse me.
Yep, that's actually Chris Peranto, and Tonto was his call sign. He actually, former Army Ranger, former CSI contractor, or CIS contractor, excuse me. And so trying to think, CIA. I thought something sounded wrong there. Sorry. Seen too many CSI episodes. So if you remember hearing or actually seeing that movie 13 Hours, Chris is one of the guys who was in Benghazi, Libya, when that attack went down. He actually was in shorts and flip-flops during that, but we're actually going to put him in this uniform. So again, it fits into what we can actually do with the tooling. And you can look online and find photos. It's kind of that desert tiger stripe. You Google Chris Pronto or Chris Pronto CIA contractor, and this will pull up. And he actually now he does shooting, and he has that stock. That's one thing we didn't mention, by the way, for M4 and our HK 416 is the stocks are adjustable also. So we don't know any other toy line at this scale that does that. So we wanted to make sure we could do it with the SCAR, the M4, and the HK 416, not the M14. So most of them have like clicks where you can adjust it. His, I think, just because of how it is, it's like either snaps all the way on or off, but you can take it off and put someone else's stock on there.
Okay, and then to do that, I mean, I'm assuming all your weapons are going to be pretty much a firm plastic, like an ABS molding. So for that rigidity, especially if you're going to be providing stuff like the suppressors and stuff going against those small barrels. All right, so that's very cool. Again, more customizing options are available here. So let's roll into Robo here. Gavin, what can you tell me about this guy?
He is a former Marine. I don't remember. Oh, right there. 4th Recon Marine. Chad Robichaux, his call sign's Robo. He comes with a backpack. You cannot put stuff in it. It's not like modular, but we have other backpacks that are. And then he has a knife, little holster strap, and same with a pistol. And then he comes with a scarf and a hat.
Actually, I have one. If I can shine this light. Oh, I have one right here. Yeah, we were just talking about that. All the other backpacks you can open up. This one, we might try to figure out a way to do that. It's not overly thick. Sorry, if I can try to shine
You're
my hotel light. He comes with, we did give him a K-bar, Marine K-bar, and so he's going to have that also in a pocket that fits there. I lost a wrist there. Gavin and I are both falling apart here. And so, yes, he can. We did make sure with those ball wrists that you can fit both hands together and make sure one of them cups underneath the other for the pistol. I think it'll be R&D thing to where the butterfly joints may not be cut away as much as like your classified. So how we make up for it is, with the wrist. And that's just kind of one of those where you want to look at it and be kind of, aesthetically pleasing. But if we need to, right, if there's an issue where we have to cut away more for them to move around, then, we'll do that.
Okay. Very cool looking figure, though. I like the, again, the change that you have here. You're anticipating, the way the style goes. And again, it's not a whole bunch of, or is it? I guess that's my question. Is we're seeing a lot of this. Is the tooling specifically for Robo going to be vastly different, or is it just how the deco is going to change across the main body of the buck? Because I know you said like some have different pocket placements and such.
Yeah, he doesn't have any pockets on his shoulders, so his is different. If you Google Chad Robichaux Force Recon Marine, there's a photo of him. He's got an Adidas hat. We're going to leave that logo off there, obviously, but he has that black button-down shirt with pockets here and tan pants. He doesn't have a backpack, but we thought with no plate carrier, we wanted to give him something different.
Very cool. And it looks like, when you're putting the backpack on, you have a strap that goes across the torso as well to help lock in that position there. So, okay.
Yep.
And then we've got this guy. We've been talking about him off and on, but this is your representation of Chad with his call sign from when he was active duty here. And he is an Army medic. So, again, you said initially when you were talking about stuff, Chad was like one of the first veterans you guys were talking to about things. So it's kind of apropos that he gets his representation here in the line. So, is there anything special that we want to highlight from or with the accessories and stuff that is specific for this figure?
His headphones.
Yeah.
Okay.
His ear pro is made to fit over a hat. So for future figures, we have some that would fit on a head, but his specifically for him fit over his hat.
Okay. So for this particular thing, and we know Chad is a humble man. We just need to ask, how many digital pictures did he send you of his headshot? I mean, was it different angles? Did he do like a little, did he give a smirk? Did he do a wink? I mean, I'm sure you were inundated with different angles for him for this head. And I say it flippantly, but also within the action figure community, Chad is a name that everyone is aware of, and his face is everywhere. So was it as, I don't want to say it's not challenging, but is it as important to, for not only just for Chad, but with all your veterans? I mean, you're getting, how are you getting their likenesses so on point, I guess is my question. Are you getting a lot of these images? Are you getting scans done of these individuals and sent back to you, or how's that process?
All of the above. Some of them are more famous online, and so we actually have a really good designer, and so I was able to find online pictures, send it to him. He'll let me know if he needs more. And so Chad, we had the one of him smirking up front, and then I asked him for some more, so he sent some more. Chad Robichaux beforehand, I think he had a lot of pictures online, and so thing about him is he was actually, if you don't know who Chad Robichaux is, he was also an MMA champion, and so he's got cauliflower ears on both ears big time, so we wanted to make sure we got those ears right. I wrestled myself. I grew up, and I have it in one ear, and so I thought, all right, he's going to want us to get that, and so we made sure his ears are pretty messed up.
Okay. So this is really, like I said, this is a statement figure within the line that people in the toy collecting. I won't use the C word for Chad here, but this is one that everyone really started gravitating, and this is their, like I said, their reach out for recognition in that. And some people have even said, hey, why is he locked at 180? Can you move him around? Is that something considered? Is that something you would consider as we get closer to the campaign? Would that be something that you would change around?
So we actually dropped his. It was up 220 or 250, but because we dropped it down, we are going to stay true to that combat uniform in the very beginning. And the only reason why Chad is higher because he's the only guy in the t-shirt, so his whole upper body is different. The only one with that, everything about his upper body is unique to him right now. We do have another guy not going to be in the Kickstarter, the t-shirt, but that's really the only reason why, unfortunately. And I told him that, I was like, everything you have, your headset is different, and then your whole upper body is new tooling.
Okay. So the one final thing, I guess I'll ask with all the veterans here that you've been looking at and representing here, if it comes to things like tattoos and stuff, are you going to try to mimic those, or not mimic those, but display those, or is it something that's just going to be one of the artistic challenges that we just had to face in regards to this Kickstarter?
Some of the guys requested them. What we were first trying to do is, how did you look when you were serving, right? Like Cody, one of our first guys, he actually he was a Marine Raider. He had a lot of tattoos before he retired. And so he asked us about it. I think it's one of those where if we can get good drawing or great pictures from him and the factory can mimic it, heck yeah, I want to do it. Some of those, actually, if you go look in the Spec Ops world, they call it war paint. One of the guys, I've had conversations with one of the guys who actually tattooed a lot of them. He can say some of the people he did it with, other ones you can. He's got wild stories. They would fly him overseas to tattoo after a mission to do stuff. And so, yeah, pretty interesting talking to him. And I was talking to him because some of the guys we do, he did the tattoos for, and so hopefully he can come up with like some of the original, drawings for those.
Okay. Very cool. And that's a nice, again, detail is one of the things that's going to sell a lot of people in regards to that. So very cool. And hopefully, like I said, if you can get those high res images and it can work out, that's just as cool. All right. So now we go into our deluxe figures. We have two of them here, each at different unlock levels. X-Ray really interested me, and I'm definitely curious to hear more about this guy. And I think, what was I going to say? I lost it.
Well, Gavin and I were actually talking about both of these, and we really could have or should have put Mike Ritlin. He's the guy with the dog. Could have put them first because he's got the same uniform and body as the original guys, but he's got a dog. That's different versus Clint Emerson, who's X-Ray. He has a full new body on one of them, and then on the figure on the right, it's new upper body. Here's the interesting thing about him is we took our boys to Washington, D.C. in 2019. I knew who Clint was because if you've heard of, they actually did a little show with him years ago called 100 Deadly, what's his Instagram title? 100 Deadly Skills. I think that's what it is. They did a show and where he would go around and interview people, different skills, basically deadly skills. But after he was a SEAL Team 6, so he was part of, cream of the crop, Tier 1 dev crew. He became an NSA spy. And the wildest thing about it, new Mission Impossible movie out there, I always say, was it life imitating art or art imitating life? Because he has a mask, and they call it a 5-second mask. Give me just a second. Excuse me. So he would actually operate out in real life. He would put on this mask, and you couldn't tell. It was he had also, if you looked, he had him as a black guy too. And the funny thing about that, he actually let him keep that mask, and it's sitting behind him in his office. They didn't think it would, or the FBI didn't think it would work, and so he showed them that he could fool their team. He said, funny stories. He went into a hotel as a white guy, and they knew who he was. And he said he came out within a minute as a black guy, and he had a girlfriend. And he walked out, said it was a 19-man FBI. I think it was a 19-man FBI team. He said he fooled him. And they got photos of it. And you can even see from a distance, he didn't get it pulled all the way down over his neck. And so it's bunched up down at the bottom. But he said it's kind of your sleight of hand. And so to prove to President Bush that this special, I guess, mask would work, that the lady who was running the organization gave a presentation to President George H.W. Bush. And he was telling her, he goes, no, I don't. She was holding up a mask. He goes, this couldn't fool anybody. And so she all of a sudden, she pulled off her mask, and he didn't have a clue. She was giving this whole presentation with a mask on, and he couldn't tell. And so it is wild to see them putting that on. So yeah, myself, this is kind of my favorite or most intriguing one is if we can get that mask right. The only thing is we got to be careful we don't make his head too small or the mask too big to where it looks awkward. And so if it can be the full mask, we'll do that. If it can just be the front, I mean, we may have to do that. We'll see, but we want to get it, accurate. So
okay. Or
long-winded. Yeah,
or would it be like an alternate head that would be rotated on if the mask itself doesn't work out as well between R&D? So
we could do that too. Just make it a whole new sculpt. Because we actually have that done for painting purposes.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm gonna give you a chance to talk about.
By the way, he when he was in the right side, right side of the picture, our left side, he was in Yemen and he had the MP7 with the sling he kept underneath his jacket, and so that's why you have that. And then on the right side, the picture, he doesn't have any gun, but we wanted to go ahead and give him a weapon for that too.
So that sling, is it going to be kind of like an elastic piece you're considering, or is it going to be a soft PVC that would attach to it and then you just put the sling over him? Or is that
right
something
now
that we're working through?
Yeah, right now it's a soft PVC, but we're working with the Strupp family craft for some soft goods, and so don't cross that off. But who knows? Right now it's a soft PVC that plugs in on the back of the MP7.
Okay. And then you were talking about War Dog. I missed the gentleman's real name.
Go ahead, Gavin.
Mike Ritlin. He's the one with the dog.
Now this is a really cool addition, and again, as a person who's owned or who's had many fur family members, the whole idea of a service member, canine is just a really cool concept. Law and Order is one of my favorite toys growing up, and again, for classified fans, we're going to get that figure soon, and this is just another really full representation. And just I don't have all the pictures here, but can you talk about some of the special articulation you're planning for the dog figure?
Yep. I was going to say, Gavin, if you want to. Otherwise,
I would say Gavin. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's similar to the wolf that Snake Eyes came with. The joints are pretty similar.
Timber Junkyard Dog. Yeah, he's got the same joints pretty much. So he's got another head, and I think he's actually going to come with another neck too. So you got the good boy version, then you got the fur missile version there with him growling.
And I actually have the 30.
Oh, you have that too? Oh, you're spoiling me tonight.
It's going to be one dog with two heads and then this gear, but we have one with the gear on and then one with the gear off.
It comes with goggles also. We don't have those painted up, but that can fit on too.
Right. So let me make sure I understand what you just said, Gavin. So with this pack with the dog, is it two dogs, one geared up and one not geared up? It's going to come with the figure, or is it just the ability to take the armor off of the dog?
It's one dog, and you can just take the stuff off of it, the vest.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Because that's one of the things that kind of annoyed me with Junkyard is that you couldn't really take the armor off unless you wanted to actually slit the
plastic
plate off of them. So, and then we got Suka, great guy, does a lot of really good customizing stuff. So thank you very much for reminding everyone to smash that like button and that thumbs up here. But yeah, so again, 2 really cool deluxe sets you guys are offering here. And again, the stories behind X-Ray really, really intrigued me. And you said you went to was it the Spy Museum up here in DC?
Yeah, sorry. So they have a booth up there of Clint, and that one mask was there. I took a picture of it before we ever got in contact with him, just because I thought it was so cool, and it didn't even dawn on me at the time. It was the guy who I'd seen that TV show, 100 Deadly Skills. But him and I were messaging one time, and he said, "Oh yeah, my mask is up there at the Spy Museum." And I said, "Well," so I was just there, and so I flipped through it. I thought, "Holy crap, I got perfect photos of it." So we were able to have our designer take those photos and make that mask.
Very cool. All right, so we're going to go on here now. This is the next stretch goal, and kind of going back to the other gentleman who was trying to get these guys. Again, there are 2 sides to every engagement, and we also have to acknowledge that sometimes when these engagements happen, there are going to be differences, and there are going to be opponents that we have to face. And you have these the insurgents as an unlock, and the way you've sculpted these guys, it's very, again, it's authentic without, what I want to say, it's not a cartoony representation of these individuals. You are paying a level of respect to these combatants, these opponents that our veterans faced overseas. So we have 4 different options, or 4 unlocks here, 3 single fingers and then another deluxe set. So Ryan, I'll turn it over to you on how the concept of the insurgents came into this.
Well, just as you said, we originally had titled this line Iraq, Afghanistan War, and then we realized, obviously, global war on terror was a whole lot more than just in those countries. There's probably a dozen countries, and so we're not trying to glorify anybody. We're not trying to pay homage to any certain insurgent. 2 of the figures are loosely based off of, some of the guys that were in news. No, it's not UBL. I know people have asked that. He's not in here. Even though we'd like to do, I'm trying to think, Operation Pack someday, and maybe we'll include his figure with the group. But we don't want, I don't want anybody to look or use these as a martyr. That's not really right, because I don't think anybody's going to do that to toys. But I don't want anybody to get confused that we're trying to pay respects or glorify them too, when it really is about our veterans. But like when I was talking to Clint, I said, "Hey, how do you feel if we do them?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think actually you should." He said, "It's you need both sides of it." And so as Gavin and I talked, if we end up doing all the wars we hope that America was in someday, you have multiple sides. Sometimes it's not always clear who's good and bad, but we want to represent all parties.
Very, very true. And I do understand the creative choices, because some people would ask for those specific individuals, like you said, whether it was UBL or Saddam or anything like that. It is, it's not hiding away these individuals, but it is sometimes a taste and an appreciation of understanding who you're creating this product for. And who knows? I mean, it's not like we're creating, how do I want to say, you're not going to see a World War II representation of a certain leader.
Right.
That's just not going to happen.
100%.
And that's just, the way it's going to be. Whether, and we see the same thing in a fictional self. I mean, while you're not identifying a specific person, you are giving I believe, a fair and accurate representation of the types of individuals that were involved with these engagements, and also, authentic looks to them all. We're not going through and again, the stereotypical points that you were highlighting, but the garments that these individuals are sculpted in and dressed in and painted are authentic to what they wore out there during those wars and engagements. So, and is this the first weapon here with the anti-tank insurgent that we have in RP? This is your first RPG? Or the only
our first RPG. Gavin, is that the first insurgent unlockable? I can't remember.
I think so.
It might be the commander too, but the commander in the well, actually, everybody except the RPG, the anti-tanker, you could Google and probably find people. Like you could Google red unit or blood unit, and you'll see those type of digital units as kind of their special forces that the Taliban had. These other guys were different factions that you would hear about in the news. So the anti-tanker guy, I think, was just not anybody. Just we wanted to get someone with a RPG, and the backpack can hold 3 of the rockets.
Okay. Now, one of the things that as you can see closer here, when you go onto the website and the campaign, is that we're looking at individuals walking around with sandals and also like sneakers and anything else. I'm sure that they would find at around there that they could wear it and engage with. So I think it's really unique that that you design that type of detail into these figures.
Well, if you look at the red unit online, they wore those cheetahs. Some had the black, some had the white with like the green and yellow logo, and so we wanted to make sure we captured that.
And you're also capturing the specific knives within the blood unit as well, which looks like they're going to store on their plate armor as well. So
yeah, I think that was made up, by the way, just something we wanted to add just to make sure we were offering more. So we kind of did a wicked looking knife. So
okay. Were you ever concerned about adding this group into your line? Again, going back to that question of like, cultural representation, again, possibly being misconstrued as glamorizing or creating a stereotype. Is that something that again, you guys were looking through when you made the decision to move forward with providing these figures?
No, yeah, you bet. And we still get comments occasionally from people. And again, we're trying to be true more to history without, like what you said, World War II. Some lines we won't cross. And that's why on here, we left. If there's a couple of different, as our government, or we'll call them, either, I don't want to say by their factions what they were with, but some of these people you can look online and say, oh yeah, this guy was in the news quite a bit, or they're even in movies. And so we did like the clothes, like probably close representation of some of them, but yeah, I looked at a lot of different angles of it. And again, it came back to the guys we're making figures of when I asked a few of them, said, what do you think? Again, one of them said, yeah, I think actually you need to, if you're going to do this right, because you don't want to just have, he said good guys versus bad guys. But, I know when you get down to it, right, in their eyes and the people who, we send American troops to, didn't look at themselves as the bad guys. And so complicated when you have government, right, intervention. But yeah, we wanted to be able to represent the conflict. But yes, by the way, Mike, I'm still always leery about that stuff. So you never know.
I totally understand. And it's a reality. Again, my uncle, he served towards the later half of World War II and into Korea, and even come back home, there was still a very strong stigma against people, the individuals we fought with in the Pacific, and it's a hard thing. Sometimes it's tough to be real sometimes without. Let me rephrase what I'm going to say. Sometimes you have to be real and understand that there are going to be sensitivities, but you have to let everyone be an adult and recognize their feelings with it. You're not going out there to disrespect anyone. You're not trying to put anything out there that, you know, is to gaslight or anything, but it is realistic and it is what has happened in the past.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
So
I haven't asked them any questions, but if you look at some of the interviews that some of our veterans have been on, they 100% said, I respected the enemy combatant, right? I respected them. I don't look at them as, you know, an evil being. Now, some of them, yes, and we're going to stay away from them. I mean, we know, you know, some ISIS people made the news. We're not going to touch on any of that, but no, again, I think there's many different views, but if you look at, in their eyes, who's the enemy, right? It's the people coming on their land. So
absolutely. But yeah, so I mean, this is 320,000. It's a, you know, it's a lofty stretch goal, and hopefully, you know, when we get up there and we see it reached, you know, we'll get these guys in here.
yeah,
Big M?
this is the one. By the way, we get more questions about people almost want to do a Kickstarter just with them so they can get them first, and that may be an option, but that's not. Again, the whole basis for this in the beginning was to make sure we can give back to, you know, the people who did serve, and, you know, they come back home and they don't always get the help they need from the VA. So whatever help we can send their way, we will.
Understood. And Big M, I want to say hi to you. And Jim, thank you very much for watching tonight. And you know, hopefully we entertained and informed you guys about this this Kickstarter. So, but we're at the final stretch goal, and this one's really cool. And what we talked about before in regards to world building, and you guys are taking it in a unique way in regards to creating a battle set or a play set, so to speak. So, what can you tell me about the mortar pit? Because it looks really awesome.
Gavin, do you have any pieces with you?
No, not on the table.
That's okay. I was going to say, or if you want to grab them just to show them, well, I guess they can see the picture with the Joes. Yeah. So again, there's people with vehicles. One of my biggest annoyances is all my classified figures that lean up against the wall. Heck, even the, you know, Black Series Star Wars, and there's nothing to put them on. And so we thought, all right, what can we do that's different? Maybe impact the industry at scale. If other companies would start doing it too, it'd be pretty cool. But we have a modular playset. They're battle sets, right? We're not targeting kids. You know, we're all grown ups here. So it is a modular base. And the idea is we're going to build out a FOB, a forward operating base. So this is just the first start. But I mean, we have other things, guard tower, I mean, gates. There's a lot of things that we have that we want to introduce down the road. We're going to start with this. Originally, it was round, because if you look online, most of the ones we saw, the mortar pits, they were round. But we thought to fit into this FOB, it's going to be better suited to make it not perfectly square. We kind of round the inside of them, the sandbags, but we went with this. And so down the road, I mean, other adaptable sandbags that leave an opening on there, or we might even still do an opening that's kind of up in the air. But right now, we've left it as an enclosure with an M224 mortar.
And I'll say this is really, I do really want to see this get funded, because one of the things I loved having when I was growing up and playing with my action figures was having that environment, whether it was the Checkpoint Alpha or the, you know, I would go over to my friend's house because he had the tactical platform. I'm not going to mention the one that had the flag because he annoyed me. It's the whole idea of, like, you know, you have all these figures, you can take them outside and everything else, but having the scale environment that they can interact with is really helps, like, really cool creativity going forward. And thank you, Toyamic Displays, for hopping on. And again, he said he can't wait for this in the FOB. Which again is the forward operating base. But yeah, this is really cool. And the fact that you're talking about that this is not only you're building it modular, but you're also already kind of planning how to either add additional pieces to help flesh this out, or expand it overall. So I mean, this is again that forward thinking of we're going to give you the taste, we're going to give you that initial fix, but you have plans to build things on with that. So really cool. I really can't. I enjoy this one a lot, and the fact that you're putting foot pegs in various positions.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming by looking at the piece there on my left, you're going to be able to rotate the placement if you want to put additional figures around. Um,
Mhm.
and whether I'm assuming the two indented pots or spots are for the sandbags to put into, but you don't actually have to. You can use that. You can move things around as you need to.
Yep.
And
So on
so
the,
when we, oh, go ahead.
yep, go ahead. Nope, keep on your thoughts. Sorry.
No, no, please. You probably weren't going to answer my question anyway.
Well, on the bottom, the sides have where you can connect the pieces together. So we have little tabs that will pop in there to make sure they're held together. And then on top, yes, that's a hole. And we, instead of making the peg built onto the sandbag, we thought, let's keep it a separate piece. So that way you can use that sandbag standalone if you want, or you can use that peg to do other attachments. So I look at companies like Gridiron. If they want to do adaptable pieces to it, they can adapt their piece on our peg. And so the goal is to give plenty of pegs, right? Those could get lost. And then also maybe make that peg, like give you the size online where it's a free 3D printable so people can add on themselves if they lose it. We're toying with a lot of different ideas, but I just know myself, I lose all the small pieces. So we want to give plenty with that.
Right, well, as a 3D printer enthusiast myself, I love the idea of digital STLs added into things. The sandbags, are they actually going to be sculpted in that angle formation, or are they going to be straight? Are there going to be some straight pieces? So, say you want to, instead of having an enclosed area, you want to, like you said, have it open, say, like have a straight line. Is that something that's being considered as well?
Yeah, we those just aren't with the mortar pit, but yeah, that's future variants, not variants, but play sets like your jersey barriers. There's a lot of different options to do on there. Some wall, and I can't remember what they call them, but those square. If you look at Afghanistan, just Google Afghanistan fob, and you'll probably find they're like a square basin that they would dump sand and gravel into. So those are ideas too to put on there. We don't have those sculpted yet, but we want to make sure you can take this base and put whatever you want on there. Again, you can hire your own designer to design something instead of that sandbag, and you can pop it in there. Or we talked about small rocks. So if you want to remove a sandbag, but just had your guys on a set, then and you don't want to see the hole in there, then put a rock on that peg or anything. The sky's the limit.
Very cool. And the fact that we have this here, and again, customizers and painters, they're ready to throw. They love putting washes, and I can just see myself, putting a little more PVA glue base on there and putting some actual sand and stuff just to really bring that realistic look to it. Again, I'm excited for this, and I want to see this stretch goal get reached.
Yeah, we love customizing it, so we want to make this line a customizer-friendly line. I love it. Honestly, nothing would excite me more than looking online and seeing someone taking one of our figures and completely making it into their own idea, or same with this base here, or mortar pit.
Cool. Well, that's kind of the gist of everything we have here. And I will bring up your website, your campaign here, but I just want to highlight the success you have right now is that you reached 30% of your goal at this point. And we can see, we'll do a real-time check on here and see what we've done. Hopefully we've talked to some more backers into your campaign while we've been talking here for the past 2 hours. But I also wanted to put out, ways that we can follow you guys, not only during the campaign, but afterwards. And I think I got all your socials here between Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and TikTok. And then also you have your official website.
Yeah, our official website is a bit in pieces. Well, I mean, we just removed everything we've had, except I think we have some T-shirts on there. But yeah, Gavin's been doing some TikTok videos, trying to branch out because we have pictures with firearms and even the toys with firearms. Our social media has just gone way down. Actually, the last couple of years, if you scroll back, we used to get 20,000 likes on a post, and now we can't get 100 because they won't show our page to anybody else. we're just really appreciative of anybody who can share, because that's, I think, the only way we're going to make it. We are at 30% behind actually where I want to be, and I think a lot of it, I mean, we just need to let more people know, because you have a lot of people who I think typically back Kickstarters are leery about it, because again, there's been a couple within the last year. Actually, there's been 2, I think, that funded, I know, and they didn't come through, with their product. One of them, refunded most of it, if not all of it, but still, if you're wondering about us, if you're someone who typically does, a full line, if you give us a chance with one figure, anything will help us, get going, and then, we'll prove ourselves from there. We don't only want to prove it to you, we got to prove it to these veterans, because again, these guys are parents. We don't want to give them a turd of a figure, that they're going to show their kids. And so we're gonna put out something good, we hope.
Well, Gavin, I got a question for you, and it goes with what your dad was just saying about your videos on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
When you are looking at this and trying to talk to your peers in your age group, what are some of the challenges that you get? I mean, you're talking unlike your father and I when we were your age, we didn't have all this accessibility at the palm of our hands. So how do you approach introducing, your line to young adults like yourself to get that word out, to get that knowledge? What are some of the things you're kind of working on to do that?
Well, for like YouTube, we AI actually gives us some good ideas on different videos to like kind of be different. We're gonna try to do that a little bit, but then yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Your dad, and some of the things your dad has said that you've been doing behind the scenes in regards to, like, things like website, cleaning up your website and working through that, right? And you just said working with AI. I mean, are you looking at like taking some of your prototypes when you get closer in production and doing some of those motion videos with your figures just to kind of represent and create a story in and of itself? Is that kind of what you feel like your peers are more inclined to look at than just sitting here watching an old guy talk for 2 hours about toys? Um,
Yeah, I think okay, well, people my age, I feel like would rather have a video game or something to if we could somehow do that in the future. But also like short videos like that look like Call of Duty, maybe trailers or something that look kind of real. I think a lot of people are interested in that, especially my age.
so you're saying like maybe videos showcasing the veteran and highlighting the figure coming in and then talking about the real life veteran and then closing back out. Some of that stuff is what you think will bring in the backers around your age group.
Hopefully. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Well, not only do we have your socials here, but I'd like to talk to you guys about your your next face to face with some potential backers. And I know you guys are getting ready for Joe Fest here coming up. Um, and you're not. This is not your first. Your first rodeo with this convention. What's the normal plan for this now, especially with the campaign coming up? What are you going to be bringing to the conventions to show people?
He has quite a few figures that are painted. We're going to have, hopefully, I don't know if we'll have everybody. I don't know if we'll have the red unit or the blood unit insurgents painted up, but we should have everybody plus the mortar pit. I'm actually doing a panel at Joe Fest. Some stuff I actually kind of I saw Figure Flight Club. I saw was on here. Something I kind of let slip there, and actually we'll say here because we screwed up and already did the last one is there's a couple of factors in the U.S. we're talking to about the mortar pit. So again, my biggest thing is going into an industry. Anytime I've gone into an industry, you look at what can you do to help change it to make it better? How can you impact it at scale? And if we could get that going here in America and open the door for other companies to do it too, I mean, I just think that'd be phenomenal. it's going to be more costly probably. Maybe you can't do as many paint decos, to keep it within budget, but you don't have the long supply chain time coming overseas, and it'd be something here to, even if it's only a couple of jobs, something to impact a couple of jobs. And so that's not done, and it may not happen, but that's kind of in the works.
And that's kind of the cool thing, with an independent company like yourself, is that you can look at taking a, I want to say a gamble or a risk, but it is an opportunity that you guys can look into. That some of these larger retail, these larger companies, they're beholden to shareholders and such, and they just can't, potentially have that opportunity. So it's good you're looking into that. So are there any other conventions you're looking to after Joe Fest?
We are going to the DFW and Action Figure Show. Those are the only two right now. Again, if we're successful, or when we're successful, right? And I want everybody to know, if we do not reach our Kickstarter goal, that's not the end of it. That will obviously help make things easier in the beginning. Whether it's the right option in the long run, time will tell. But we are having those two toy shows, and then we'll have hopefully prototypes for the next year, factory prototypes, not our little 3D ones where they fall apart at times.
Well, I said I wanted to close out by showing the Kickstarter, and I want to make sure I'm being up front here. And like I said, I am backer 88, so I have at least got in here on the early bird. That number, I'm sure, is going to change as we go along here, but right now we are sitting, right at the cusp of 30,000. We have 166 backers, and we got 25 days to go. So, I mean, getting the word out is going to be one of the paramount things that I'm going to do, and definitely showing the updates as we go along with this campaign. Success or fail, but we're not going to looking at it like that right now. We're going to be successful, and I can't wait to see this first line of figures come out from you guys. So with that, we are almost at 2.5 hours, guys, and I really appreciate your time, especially on a Monday night for everything else, to sit down and talk about toys. It's been a lot of. It's been fun. I will say that much. And again, both you guys are inspirational, and I wish you all the best success on this. And again, Gavin, I'm extremely humbled because you are doing something that I never thought I would. I never would have considered doing it at your age, and so I applaud you for your creativity, your savvy, and I hope this will be a huge learning experience that will continue on in your life. You guys make a good team. I'll say that.
Thank you.
I will say one thing. One thing I actually mentioned in the last show is, as a kid, I grew up working on a family farm, and didn't enjoy it, but I know my dad did. Now looking back now, I think he gets tired of me sometime, but it's been a lot of fun, as a dad, doing this with him. So it's been a blast.
That's the best part. These are memories that, are never going to go away. And, trust me, as a father of a 20-year-old, time goes by super fast. So relish every opportunity.
Yeah.
Titan's going to be spending some more on this year. We got some you got some visitors getting ready to see you there for Joe Fest, and
we appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
And I'm glad that we all exceeded expectations. I'm glad that everyone found this enjoyable, informative, and again, we all like collecting. We all like our own things, and I think that this line has its own special lane in our action figure line and our collection. So I can't wait to incorporate you guys into my collection. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the platform and allowing us to come on here and share it.
Absolutely, guys. And everyone in the chat, thank you very much for sticking around and asking your questions. For those in replay, thank you very much as well for watching. And again, follow these guys on their socials. And like I said, if you're able to back these guys, back this Kickstarter, please do so. So with that, gentlemen, I want to give you the rest of your evening off, and I hope you have a fantastic week this week. And we will be keeping an eye on your campaign all the way through to January. Wow, July 5th. Excuse me. So, but thank you guys, and congratulations again to Paisano and Crash for winning these figures. Again, reach out to me via email, and I'll put that email in the description here for this show. And everyone, thank you very much. Have a fantastic week and enjoy your collecting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gavin, I'll let you send us off, man.
You got it.
Thank you, everybody, for watching this. I hope you learned something new. Hope you would like to spend some money on our stuff, but thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
That one's me. Fear.